Hello everyone, Coach Carole here with today's tip. We're up to tip number 4. And today is January the 5th. And my tip for you today is all about knowing where to record the information that you've researched for your ancestor. I'm going to share with you my particular way of doing things, and I hope you find this useful. Today's journey is taking you into the Scottish ancestry of my husband's family. And I began by reading from a magazine just to get myself started on where should I go to find information about Scottish ancestors. And one of my favorite books is this one. It's shiny a bit there. The Essential Guide to Family History from the Who Do You Think You Are magazine. Now, this is getting a little old in the tooth now. I've had it for some time, but the information is still the same and still relevant. And in this particular edition, it gives me 20 simple steps to start my family tree. And I stopped on the page which talked about birth certificates. Just finding the right page here to remind myself. Here we go. And this was step number 8 about ordering a birth certificate. And I was reading through this page and it gave me some information such as pick a starting point, decide where you have a really firm footing from which to start, about the name and the birth date of that ancestor. So in this case, it's a great-great-grandparent who has the same name as my husband, Alexander McCulloch. And the birth date that I had recorded in my journal was 1853. So today I went on a little journey to make sure that I had the right details for this Alexander. And on that page, it talked about Scottish birth certificates and reminded me that if I wanted to get copies of Scottish birth certificates, I could go to this website, www.scotlandspeople.gov.uk. So that's where I went in my first step today. Let me share that with you in my screen here. Go back to the page that I want. So I'd gone a little bit further. So what I did here was I searched for the surname McCulloch, forename Alexander, and the year range of 1853 and in the county of Stirling. And I knew from records that he was born in Bothkenna, a parish in the county of Stirling, Scotland. So now I update my results. And we find Alexander McCulloch, whose parents were David and Mary Marshall. And this is actually the baptism date, because he was born on the 5th of November, I found out. I had found out earlier. So this is a baptism record. And just move things around on my screen a little bit here. If you look on the top right-hand corner, I had some credits in this site, Scotland's People, which you can do if you're just searching for a short time or for just a few records. You can buy some credits. So today, buying 30 credits enabled me to find that I could see this image for the baptism of Alexander McCulloch. So let me go to that one. It's a little bit small. Let me expand that for you. And you can see now that this was the parish register in which the birth or baptism of Alexander was recorded. The left-hand column says just McCulloch, and at the top, Bothkenna, 20th of December, 1853. So that's the date on which this was recorded. But I'll read this to you. It's a little hard to read old writing. David McCulloch, collier at Skin Flats, and Mary Marshall, his spouse, had a son born 5th of November last and baptized 27th same month. Name, Alexander. So this is the right person. I like looking at the old records, those that are handwritten. I get a real buzz out of that. So I can now download that as a PDF and save it in my records. So I've done that and put it into my folder for the McCulloch clan. I went a little bit further in my research. Once I had some details for him, and I came to put those details into my Find My Past tree. So here is what my tree looks like for the McCulloch clan. And right here in the middle is the focal person, Alexander McCulloch. And if I click on him here, it enables me to see, I can choose a full profile, so everything that I've recorded for him, or I can have a look at some hints, or I can add a relative, or I can look at it in family view. I can scroll down and I can see now that what I had researched is now recorded for this person in this tree, the birth 1853 and the christening in 27th of November 1853. And the marriage, we found out later that he married Jane Hodge Laird in 14th of June 1875. So I went to find copies of the old records, or the old registers for these events. And I've downloaded those and I can now show them to you in my PDF. So I'll just stop sharing the website, bring up the PDFs and share that with you. Clicking all over the place here. Share screen, share the PDF and share. There we go. So this is the copy that I showed you a moment ago of the baptism for Alexander. And here next to it is the marriage certificate from 1875 marriages in the district of Bothkenna in the county of Stirling. And right at the top of the page is the record for Alexander McCulloch, a coal miner who is a bachelor, and his spouse, Jane Hodge Laird, who is a spinster. There's always so much more on a marriage certificate to help you with the next stage of your research. So it's well worth getting the actual marriage certificate if you can. Or in this case, it's a register, it's not actually a certificate, but it gives you all the information that you need. The place of residence was Skin Flats, Bothkenna. The age, he was 21 and she was just 18. His parents, David, coal miner, and Mary McCulloch, maiden name Marshall. Her dad was James Laird. I can't quite read that. I think it's a brusker in pit. So to do with the coal mining industry again. And her mother, Margaret Laird, whose maiden name was Cowan, C-O-W-A-N. And that was an important piece of information because I later found out that their first child was given Cowan as a middle name. And looking over here on this column of witnesses' names, we see the Reverend and then the witnesses. Robert McCulloch, possibly a brother of Alexander, not sure, something more to investigate. And Davina Laird, a relative of Jane Hodge Laird. And the name again was interesting because another child of Jane and Alexander was Davina. Looking at that gives me a really great set of details to record for each of these people. Another step further forward was to go back to find my past for a census record and to see how the family had progressed since the last time we saw them in their marriage certificate in, let me remind myself, 1875. So we're now in 1901, so 26 years have passed. So we've now got a list of children under Alexander's name, and we notice that he's now a widower. So Jane Hodge has now passed on. Now he's made his, or recorded his birth year as 1854, which is not quite right. This often happens in recording. And here we see that in the household on this particular night of the census in Skinflats, Grangemouth, Bothkenna are the children. And we see the daughter, Davina, who is 18 years old. The first child, Margaret, is not there. So she's probably already left the household and gone off to make her own family. Then we see James, who is a son and is also a coal miner. And then some younger children who are either scholars or infants. Jesse, Alexander, David, and then, interestingly, a grandson, also called Alexander McCulloch, and he was obviously staying with them on the night of that census. He's very young, so he's only a few months old in 1901. So with all of that information, I needed to record it somewhere to keep it safe. I've saved all these PDFs, of course. That's one way to do it. And the other thing that I do is in my trusty Evernote, and I've recorded the details for Alexander McCulloch, born 1853, in my notes for him under the McCulloch family clan. So the baptism information with the date highlighted and the place highlighted, and then the marriage showing Jane Hodge Laird highlighted and the date. So I'll continue to copy and paste information for Alexander McCulloch as I find out more about him. But this is how I proceed with my research and my records. And as I'm going, I'm building a story around these people. So when I come back to my family tree, I've got a better idea of who this person is. So if I view his full profile now, just waiting for it, it's a bit slow in Zoom. I can then check the details that I've got on the left-hand side here: born, baptized, married, and the sons and daughters' births down that left-hand side. Parents are shown over here, and there are 13 hints for him for me to investigate. I might now want to go there immediately and look at what else I can find out about him. But for now, I'm going to resist that urge to dig deeper and to just finalize my notes and finish today's tutorial on how you can fine-tune your research and record your results in a smart way, but in a simple way. I've used Find My Past, Scotland's People today, and of course my favorite, Evernote. I hope this has been of help to you. Come back later for another episode in researching and recording.